Flawless, Whitey, all in there. Leon is coming from behind, so is Emo from the Vultures. The Vultures coming in thick and fast. Leon from as well here. The riders coming fast, but these skirts from Flubus. Flubus now kicks. Gert has gone at 10 watts per kilo. What has Flubus got? Flubus is looking for the line. He's led this from the front of the race, and the banner is right around the corner. There it is. We sight it. It's Gert versus Flubus. Flubus versus Gert at the moment. Gert from the Watt squad is going to take the first 2 more corners, and then that green banner, the big numbers start to come down because Gellings is absolutely dialing this. Greenwood's at 13 watts per kilo. The Dinos rider absolutely on the front here. Greenwood absolutely pushing the power down through those pedals. Isaacs is following from the riders, but DeVos is there as well. Now the rest of the riders come, but no one. I think Greenwood still takes that. Hello and welcome to the Super 6, brought to you by Octaine Racing, a union between Octaine and Flamme Rouge Racing. While alongside me, Emma Martin, is of course Nathan Craik. We're going to be bringing you all of the action from, well, it is the final of the Super 6 League race season. Well, for this season, this main action today, well, we're going to be coming to you from the Beta and the Delta races from Europe, but we're going to try and bring you all of the action from the Alpha, Gamma and Epsilon leagues if we can. Nathan, there is so much to pack in today. It is going to be absolutely amazing. Now, you played DS to your team in an earlier league. What are we likely to see unfold today in a points race?
There is going to be a lot on in this race. It is a big race, probably the hardest race, I would argue, of the round. And we're going to see lots of different strategies at play here, especially given that we've got a sprint segment followed by a climb segment, followed by a sprint segment, followed by a climb segment, followed by the wildcard segment. So it is going to be on for young and old. The strategies in play here are going to be interesting to watch, given that some of these teams are so close on their leaderboards. It is going to come down to how they tackle these climbs especially and set themselves up for that wildcard challenge.
And we saw last week when we watched the scratch race with just one wildcard segment in play, massive changes in the overall league standings across the teams, and we're going to look at those in a very short while. But before we do, we saw huge movement with just the wild card and the finish line in play. Today, we have all 6 roles in play in the points competition. This really is going to shake things up, isn't it?
Oh, it's going to be fantastic to watch. Having gone through this a few hours ago with our race here in APAC, watching how the teams tackled and approached each of those climbs is really going to make the difference in terms of how successful some of these teams are going to be. And as you say, Emma, there are literally only a handful of points separating the league leaders in these leagues, and it's really going to be exciting to see how they play out.
Well, I think we should take a look at those league standings right now, Nathan. And, well, it's tight at the top and it's tight below 5th place as well. Now, it's the top 5 teams that will go straight through to the finals without needing to go through the playoffs. And, well, it's really, really interesting.
Look at those standings. We've got in Alpha there, Sisu there on top with Beast Mode and What Squad. Coming down to Beta, we've got the Art Sixes, What Squad representing there in second as well, and Coalition. Into Gamma, we've got the Drafting Dinos. Now, we watched them in the last race 4, absolutely dominate. And then we've got Art as well and What Squad. Coming across to Delta, we've got Dirt there with the Coughing Dragons. We've got BM, Beast Mode, and GTR as well. And then in Epsilon, we have GTR, 2 art racing teams there as well, and the Drafting Dinos. And again, looking at the point spread on some of these leagues, there is literally 1 or 2 points, league points, separating these. And so this is where that wildcard segment is going to absolutely decide how some of these teams win or lose.
Yeah, and really interesting. Just to prove the point in terms of how far up the league standings these teams can go. Team Not Poggy Blue Mountain in the Beta League moved up into 5th place last week from 10th overall in the league. So one race can make a massive difference. And if you think it's close at the top, a little bit further back down the league, it's even closer. I mean, in some of these leagues, in the Alpha League at the moment, 4th, 5th, 6th places are separated by 3 points. And obviously only the top 5 teams are going to miss the playoffs. So there is all to play for right the way through all 5 of the leagues racing tonight. Well, it's all about the points and whether those sprinters, climbers, and of course that wildcard and the GC rider can pick up the points in the right places. Let's take a look at the map, Nathan and Will. We're heading to Muckle Yin. We're heading to the big one in Scotland. 29.5 kilometres of racing today, 331 metres of climbing. How's it going to play out, Nathan? Take us through the course.
Well, we've got the breakaway Bray reverse sprint very quickly out of the gates. And so even though it's only about 7 Ks from the start, that will come up quite quickly. Of course, that's going to focus the sprinters on that segment. Then after that, we have the Segur Summit North. Now, this is a longer climb. It is on dirt. It will sap the energy of a lot of legs early in the race. After that, there's a quick descent and then back to the sprinters again for the breakaway Bray. And of course, then the Segur Summit South. Now, that is a shorter segment. It is only 1 kilometre, but it will absolutely test every of the climbers and the GC and those wildcard holders because they'll want to be on the front of that group coming over that descent. And then we had the Clyde Kicker. Now, the Clyde Kicker is where all the fireworks will happen, I think, given that that's where the wildcard, the 2 league points are on offer for any team that can get their wildcard holder over the line in the first 5 riders. And then we have the rolling finish for those that are still battling for those GC points there. So it is going to be exciting. A lot to take in. There's a lot going on in this one. And in our race, it was absolutely going off over that Segur Summit South. That's really where a lot of the team strategies, I think, came to the fore. And I'm interested to see how that's going to play out in this race.
Well, like last week, I imagine we're going to see very different race tactics across the 5 different races we've got underway today. The category A, the alpha squads are already out onto the course, onto the first 300 metres of racing, and you can see the pack all together swinging around this tight right-hand bend here. Already very, very quickly up to pace, around 46 kilometres, 46 should I say kilometres now. I need to put my eyeballs in. Curtis is there, Van Wyn is in the mix, so is Bart, and you can see everyone from Sisu who are leading the overall standings in the Alpha League at the moment, right the way down to the team in 5th place. Well, that is the L'Equip squad. They've moved up into that position, and the Dirt Down and Dirty Ospreys battling with them tight for those points. The B squads are now up and out of the pen and very, very quickly up to pace. And you can see another pack rolling strongly. It's not going to take long for them to get to that breakaway Bray reverse sprint, is it, Nathan?
No, they'll be on that very, very quickly. So much so that we'll begin to see quite shortly some of the sprinters beginning to fall back through the group. Now, in this racing series, there are no power-ups and all the bike frames are neutralized. So everyone's on the same frame. There aren't any power-ups to help decide who's going to hit this sprint harder or faster or quicker. So we're going to see those sprinters start to drift back through. We'll see the GCs and the climbers push on through that segment and give their sprinters something to aim for, some more draft, and then hopefully see them regroup after that sprint and then tackle that Segur Summit North climb.
Now, the C category out of the pen at the moment, the Gamma League. Already a big push on the front, wanting to maintain and keep the pace high. We've got a stream of riders really strung out ahead of the pack.
It's interesting to see whether some of the riders might actually try for an even earlier breakaway. But I think probably a lot of this is going to be nervous energy, fresh legs that are eager to try and, get this race happening. And watching D just leaving the pen now. Again, I think we'll see a little bit of speed coming out of the pens and then a quick settle as they group up through that right-hand corner and begin to assess where they are, who's in the race. Everyone's looking sideways, and then watch them try and start to execute their strategies based on the sprint coming up not too far away.
Yeah, and that sprint at that 5.6 kilometre marker, it does make for quite I was going to say a challenging start, really, in terms of getting that balance right, because you don't want to push too hard out the start pen, but you don't want to get left sat on your laurels. But neither do you sort of want to miss the fact that if one of the teams decides to go for a long run and really push on at the start in terms of really targeting the first two segments, you don't want to miss that move either. So it really is trying to find that sweet spot, that balance point, and get the start right. Quite difficult.
It's like threading a needle, isn't it? You don't want to be too far back where the elastic can snap and all of a sudden you're fighting to try and regroup or re-bridge into that gap. And you don't want to be too far forward where you can potentially lose speed coming into that sprint segment and not have the benefit of a larger draft effect from a bigger group.
Yeah, well, the Epsilon League, now the last league away today here on the Muckle Yin in Scotland. The teams here, a smaller number of teams across the Epsilon League, but it's been a phenomenal race season with the number of teams taking place. Just in Europe alone, 87 teams across the 5 leagues. So absolutely brilliant to see. Now, I'm just taking a little look at the data I've got in front of me. If we look at the total number of teams that have taken place with the Super 6, 135 teams have taken to the start line for this competition this year. Absolutely brilliant numbers.
How fantastic is that? And I just wanted to comment before, Emma, where we talked about how some of these teams, the league standings changed just within one race alone. It just shows you how dynamic this racing is and how much of an opportunity right up until the very end do teams have to try and capitalize on this race, on the series, and make it through to the finals. It really is exciting.
And when you think it all started back on the 10th of October, this has been going on a really long time. When you think that one race can be so instrumental, there must have been some real battles out there week in, week out across these leagues to get to this final position and this final league race today.
Oh, absolutely. Like with 15 races over that time, it has been a real series to sink your teeth into and to be involved in. I know that our team have loved it, and every time someone new has been introduced to this, they think the whole racing format is fantastic. And so I can only see this growing and getting larger and more popular as it progresses. And it really is something quite exciting to be involved in.
Yeah, so Category B, who we are in with at the moment, you can see how quickly they are approaching that first sprint checkpoint. The ART squad, the Sixers, the Beta High squad are at the top of the league. They're 7 points clear of the Beta Watt squad. The Down and Dirty Falcons, well, they moved from 3rd down to 4th in the league table last week. Moving up into 3rd place was Coalition, who were lying in 5th. So it really, really is shifting and moving. ZGR, they have dropped to 6th place. They're going to be looking to find those extra points today. In 7th, they're dropping down there, the On the River Eclipse squad. And, well, moving up, it was, as we mentioned right at the beginning when we were looking at the league standings, Team Not Poggy Blue Mountain, currently lying in 5th. They're going to be trying to cement that. But I can tell you it's really, really close. 87 points, 86 points, 83 points, 3 squads on 79 points. This really is going to take all 6 roles here on the Super 6 to play this out today and to really finalise this league.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to how these teams approach these sprint segments to try and get the maximum points. Because as you say, Emma, sure, they can get the wild card and the 2 league points there, but there's so many other points on offer to contribute to the overall standing and the overall finishing positions of this race, that every rider needs to try and do the best they can to get as many points in those segments as is possible. And so we're coming up to A here. They're about to, there we go. They've just crossed the start beacon there with the sprint. And let's see how this one plays out.
Well, it's interesting because Sisu put their climber on the front to leave it out, and now the sprinter is up and running. So Wilson, Sisu's sprinter, absolutely leading this out of 14 knots per kilo. This is one massive push here, but Harris is coming up, and so is Friedrich. They're making the most of the draft here and coming up onto the wheel. Will Harris go over the top? I think Harris is going to go over the top of Wilson. Friedrich has as well. It's Harris from Sisu who goes up and over the top. It's getting your sprinters over the top first. What a move. One sprinter led it out from the Sisu squad. The other one went up and over the top. That was absolute team dynamics. Look at that. 1 and 2 over the line. What a move.
That was some monster power there, wasn't it? That was absolutely sensational to watch that. And of course, this is about the fastest through segment time, not just about the FAL. So we'll wait to see how those results are played out. But of course, riders that are going to sit back a little bit and then push through will be the ones that I think might get the fastest time here because they can benefit from that draft. Now we see B coming up and they're about to hit this segment as well.
Yeah, they are. And well, the coalition squads are dominant, but we've got one big kick coming quite early as we take the run in, and we're still a little way out. But now, look at it lighting up on the board. Coalition now, and L'Equipe, the sprinter from L'Equipe, Maurice is the rider pushing on here. The coalition rider, Andy, is pushing too. Hendo is there, so is Cook and Henderson. All of them in the mix, but at the moment, Maurice is absolutely motoring. Now the packs come fast from behind. Henderson putting in a phenomenal time. So is Mandy from Coalition. Absolutely brilliant racing as they come up and sweep through underneath the banner. There's going to be some very quick times on that. Let's take another look.
Seeing Hendo come through there, Morris there just in front. Cook coming up so fast. Steve as well. Mandy from Coalition. It is just absolutely phenomenal. And look at some of those points because this is a very hard sprint. These riders make it look easy. Coming up that little incline really does take a lot of that power out of the legs, and they'll be pushing incredibly hard.
Yeah, and it's 450 metres this sprint with an average gradient of 2%. It is not short and fast. It is a real drag, isn't it? And, that last 150 metres, really you are feeling it in your legs. But the numbers and the tactics that are coming from the riders in terms of coming from behind, I'm just seeing the numbers start to light up now on the C squads as we're getting the early starters, the early run-ins here. Smith from L'Equipe is there. The riders now starting to move. Coalition right on the front with Bullock, but the riders now starting to come from behind, and yet again the numbers are flashing. Look at the colour lighting it up. The dynos are right up the front as well. DeVos is there too, but a little bit further back we've got other riders in the mix. Smith from L'Equipe is now starting to move as well. The Watt squad sprinter starting to come through too. So the numbers, Nathan, some of them going early and long, some of them leaving it until it's quite late and utilising that draft. Really interesting difference of tactics.
I think I'll have to cast my memory back here, but didn't Greenwood win the Gamma League race last week in fourth? So there we go, yes. Seeing him on the front again, pushing the pace. That's so awesome to see. Yep, there we go. So watching C, and of course now we have the Epsilon League coming through.
We do. And you can see a much more sedate pace. I say sedate pace. They're travelling at 50 kilometres an hour, but it looked, they're still grouped at the moment. No real stretch on that pack. The D squad coming in a little bit earlier. They're going to take this right-hand turn, and then they're going to sight the banner. And already we've got riders off the front. You can see Zach from ART1, the sprinter there already out. But whoa, look at that move from Israel from GTR, the sprinter from GTR. Mermaid from the Dinos now really lighting it up behind is going to come up and over the top. That was seriously one huge kick, and yet we've got more kicks from behind because Taylor from ART1 is moving as well. But this is the Dinos. This was the move. This is going to go under the banner first, but will it be the quickest? Taylor coming through, right through, and leaving it a little done as well in the mix. The Dirt squad coming through as well, and the Dirt CD squad. Kurt a little bit further back, but still putting down some great numbers.
Look at Mermaid there, 582 watts. And as you say, that 2% increase in the grade just makes this sprint a whole lot longer than it looks like on paper. So even though it's only 450 meters odd long, that incline really does stretch it out in terms of how much effort these riders are putting in. And that was a fantastic sprint.
Yeah, it was indeed. And the Epsilon squad will be the next, well, they'll be the next squads through, but you can see already the stretch on the group here. Austin from the Dinos, Sarah from ART, Brian is in there as well, and so is Vale from the second ART squad as well, and they are... Wow, nobody really wants to go long here. They're about to run into the banner. There you go. That is the first marker that gives the indication that the sprint is underway, but it's 450 meters, and Zega from the GTR squad. The sprinters on the move at the moment, but there's red numbers coming out behind from the second sprinter on that team. Gogol at the moment goes up and over. The Dinos now start to move because Owens is moving through the pack. They're taking the right-hand corner, and then they sight the banner. Zegas from GTR is holding some really strong numbers here, and this is going to be fast. And now the other two, they relight the power on those pedals to give a kick to the end. And Sarah from the ART squad holds a consistent but strong pace through. Now, one of the challenges here, Nathan, is even if you are not sprinting, you've got to try and stay with the front of the race.
That's it, exactly. So you've still got your climbers, you still have your GC, and of course the strategy here should be that if they can, for the climbers and the GC to press through that segment. They can't sort of let up and let the sprinters go. They've got to keep pressing through that segment as best they can without blowing up, of course, and then potentially regroup, because that's where the strength of your team is. Regrouping again, working together, getting that draft back, and then allowing your sprinters to recover before they hit this climb, which is where we are now. And watching B coming up this climb, this is going to be a significant effort. And of course, we've got Van Wyn there, already halfway up the climb. This is where it does punch up. We've got a tight little pinch around this left hand, and then it will flatten out a little bit before it goes straight back up again.
Yeah, and our riders will have noticed the SP against the names of the sprinters as they were coming through that first segment. It's the CL, the climbers who are in play now, and Van Wyn from the Watt squad pushing on strongly here, heading towards the top of the summit. The Dirt rider behind setting a strong pace. Hayes, Perot just 1 second back. The Falcons, well, they're not too far back either. Neither are Coalition. The just 1 second, 2 seconds now separating the top 6 riders as we come up the climb. But the push is on from behind. Now I can see Tommy from ART1 now starting to move through the pack, leaving it a little bit later to put the power down. Not a bad move if you are in contention.
Did you see how that was so strung out? And the climbers there, we do have a GC rider up in second position. That is from one of the Dirt riders there, coming through the banner. And of course, the challenge here is going to be for those GC riders and for the wildcard holders. Of course, we don't know who the wildcard holders are, but they would want to be on the front of that group as best as they possibly can to set themselves up for the Clyde kicker further in the race.
And from a team perspective, Nathan, you don't really want your climbers to disappear down the road now, do you? You want them to reconvene and to work together with the rest of the squad.
Absolutely. You'd still want your climbers to be there to help your GC and help your wildcard rider to get over the Segura Summit South, because that's still up there. That's still ahead of us. And of course, the sprinters as well. Now, I would think that many of the teams here would probably have designated their wildcard holder to be one of their climbers if they've got strong climbing aspects or a strong climbing arm, load your team up with those climbers and then set one of theirs to be the wildcard holder. And I think that's going to give them the best chance of success. Of course, if your GC rider is also a great climber, even better, because you want to see that rider get to the finish as high up as they possibly can to try and get the maximum points.
No, we do have a GC rider in that leading group at the moment in that B race. A couple of seconds between Group 1 and Group 2, likely to reconvene on that descent. Back in with the D category, and you can see this is a really, well, on the top right-hand corner, you can see the gradient at the moment at 13%. But we've got the rider from ART2, Coat, and we've got Carr. Second ART rider, but from the number 1 squad this time in 1 and 2. Again,
we've got Nick
just
there
a handful
from Dirt.
of seconds separating.
It's a tough climb. We do have that little false sort of flat there where they've just gone through. Coat, Car there as well. We had Nick there from Dino. We've also got Zell there from Beast Mode and Tracy from Evo as well. So this is such a tactical climb, given that it isn't a consistent gradient. There are changes in the road surface. It will feel like in some cases riders are riding through quicksand and not seeing any real progress. But this is where some of the teams are really going to start to push their strategy, and we'll see that coming out now as they cross over the top.
Yeah, a small amount of respite there. It went from around 13% down to 2% and is now starting to climb again. And it does snake around the mountainside here. So Nick from the Dirt squad is up here. BMTR have their climber up here as well. The ART squads as well. Coat and Carr still out front on this climb at the moment. Tracy from Evo is in the mix. Kate from BMTR. The Dinos are starting to pack their riders in. Andy is working strongly. So are the rest of the riders, but it really is looking like Coat and Carr are now starting to motor towards the top of the climb. They're going to swing around this right-hand bend. They're going to see the top of the banner. These two riders went early, Nathan, and they're going to be rewarded.
They are absolutely going to take the points here. And I can see that we actually got one of the when I say sprinters, someone with the sprint designation actually in 4th over this climb from in Evo. And that just goes to show you some of the strategy that some of these teams are putting in, where they're actually packing the team with climbers instead of actual sprinters. So they're focusing on the climbs. They're getting the maximum points they can there. Maybe they're saying the sprint segments aren't our priority, but we want to get the climbs done and we want to get to the Clyde kicker in the best possible position we can. And again, that's that strategy that's starting to come out that we can see happening.
And the next sprint segment, sprint number 2, is actually very close to the base of that climb. The riders are going to descend off the climb. They go over the roller at the bottom, and then they go into that second sprint segment. If you are a sprinter and you have got into the front group and you are the only sprinter in the front group, you're going to want that group to stay away.
Yes, that's right. You don't want the other sprinters getting a chance to try and take some of that time. That's for sure. So we can see a few of the sprinters here in this mix. We've got a few of the climbers there and GC as well. But we're looking at Mastricano.
Yeah, we
as
are
one
indeed.
of the sprinters, I think.
Back in with the B category, and you can see them. The pace is so high here, and they are really at the base of that descent, and they've gone up over that small roller. They are about to come into the sprint, and the pack is rolling really fast here. But that climb yet again, it's got a 2% gradient, and it's a 600-meter sprint segment. Almost is an oxymoron, 600-meter sprint. But these riders now coming in thick and fast, and one other rider coming onto the back here as we start to see it open, and Pedro has opened it up on the very, very front of the pack at the moment and is really pushing. This is a long run out at the moment from Pedro here, but the riders now starting to respond from behind, and Boom from ART1, Coalition, ZRG now starting to come through here. Pero as well starting to get into the mix, but a number of the riders have lifted the pace, but they've not started the sprint yet.
Yeah, you'd have to wonder
Waiting
whether
for the
that might have
numbers.
been a false flag coming out so early and then seeing some of the
There
other
you go.
sprinters come over the top.
And the numbers are starting to go, but it's a really interesting move. You've got to have got your sprinter into the front group, and I've just seen Bean go over for the TNP, designated sprinter. But what we're seeing is a number of the climbers go through here, and it really has split itself, this race. We are about to go into the next climb segment. One sprint, one climb, one sprint, one climb. And then we have that wildcard section. So a lot of climbers in this front group, Nathan. The sprinters trying to come through. But when I'm looking through here, I'm seeing maybe 4 sprinters, but a lot more climbers. So teams in terms of getting a rider or the right rider in the breakaway, really interesting.
Yeah, and I think, again, that comes back to some of these teams stacking their teams with as opposed to sprinters. We had our sprinters in our race, and they were literally dropped after the first Segura Summit North kicked in. And so they just sat back with all the other sprinters and focused on the second sprint. But here we can see, even though they had the sprint designation, they are up the front there, which tells us that I think they've got some climbers here that are targeting these to keep that pack, to try and get as many of the climbers over these comms as they can to try and get the most points. And of course, I think we'll probably expect to see some strategy happen on that Segura Summit South, where we will see breakaway attempts to try and finish this race off.
And the question is, how many of those sprinters are the wild card? How many of the climbers are the wild card? Because right at this moment in time, only the wild card and their team know who those riders are. Well, we're back in with the C squad. Yeah, they're coming into that sprint section now. And interesting, again, a strong pace in, Nathan, but no real kick at the moment. So we're seeing Rachel on the front for the Watt squad, Gellings for the Dinos. Rachel, the GC rider. Great to have a GC rider right at the front here in this mix. Fantastic positioning from the team. The Coalition squad have their GC rider up here as well. But no huge push from this group in terms of this sprint. But there's a lot of climbers and GC riders that I'm looking at, and I'm not seeing very many sprinters yet.
I suspect that we're going to see the sprinters come up behind this group, and that the climbers get that chance to force a bit of a gap over that last climb. And some of the sprinters are probably holding back now, waiting as they get closer to the sprint to start positioning themselves to get the fastest through time they can. But I think as we anticipated, that the climbers in the GC would force that breakaway, and I think that's what we're seeing in the Gamma League now.
Yeah, the Delta League is on your screen at the moment, and Javier is right on the front here. He is indeed a nominated sprinter from the Evoice squad, but there are a number of climbers in the mix and GC riders, but Tompkins from ART, another sprinter designation in this group as well. So there are sprinters here. This is a much more diverse group in the D category in the Delta League than we've seen in some of the others, and this could well be interesting. I'm expecting now, Nathan, not to see a steadier state through this sprint, but a real push from those riders such as Tompkins.
Well, that's right. Well, let's hope that those sprinters there can position themselves for the best opportunity they can. And we can already see one of the Dino riders start to push through to the front there.
Tom from Dirt has nailed this here.
There we go.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely nailing it here. Tom from Dirt launching early here. The riders from behind now starting to pop out of the pack as well, and really interesting to see. But Tom from the Dirt squad absolutely nailing this. Tracy from Evo, one of the climbers moving fast behind, not wanting to get dropped, but Javier from the Evoice squad, designated sprinter coming through at the moment in 2. Tomkin in the mix as well, but Tom from Dirt, what a move. What a turn of speed at that breakaway brace section, and holding on now to the line. Javier looks like he's not going to make the catch to the Dirt rider, but will come through for second on the segment.
And that's the trick, isn't it, as well? Given that this is the fastest through segment, you have to keep pushing right until the banner. Even though you might have some distance between you and the rider behind you, they can be accelerating and catching you up. And it's all about the fastest through time. So they've got to keep pushing right to the very end, right through that banner to make sure they get the best time they possibly can. But as I expect, there's probably a few of the sprinters they are absolutely destroyed by this time. Having one climb, one sprint, the second sprint, hanging on, that's impressive.
It is. And it's really interesting to see, isn't it? Because the entire pack are not sprinting, the dynamics of the draft are so different. If you've only got 3 sprinters in the pack and nobody else is going to be taking the mantle with the sprint, utilising the draft is so much harder. And as we see from Tom there, going really early and just off the front because it was the only option available at the time. Well, this is the B category we're jumping back in with, and they are about to come on to the second climb. The Sker Summit South this time. We're coming into the segment. The segment itself just 1 kilometre long with a gradient of 3.3%. And Van Wyn from the Watt squad, early doors front of the group and leading here. The ZRG rider, the GC rider paying really close attention at the front of the pack. But Richards from the ART squad is in there. Hayes from TNP is there. The coalition riders are in the mix. They are there too. Tommy as well. So the riders now, there's not much to separate them at the moment on this climb. Much, much shorter and not as steep.
No, it's a short climb, isn't it? And I'm surprised at the large number in this front group. There's some really strong riders here. And if we can see Richards there from Art pushing that front, trying to get across the line in the fastest possible time he can. But that line is starting to stretch out. I can see some cracks forming. There are some riders that are definitely struggling to hang on. But as we can see there, we've got Van Wyn coming through, Tommy coming through from Art as well. And this little kick will decide it.
Yeah, it is indeed. And Hayes moving through. So are the Falcons at the moment. There's a big number of red numbers at the moment. At the top of the climb, Van Wyn, Hayes, Tommy, Perot, Marb, all coming through there. And very, very quickly transitioning to the descent, because this is almost a pinnacle at the top, this climb. And you will transition from the climb to the descent very, very fast. And that also sometimes, Nathan, helps the group go clear because the pace picks up so fast. You start to see those seconds tick up. At the moment, there's 2-3 second gap from the OTR rider we're in with at the moment. And the stretch on the group, there could be trouble here because they're going to run into the wildcard section, which is the Clyde kicker. With a gap, the front group has split into 3 smaller groups now on this descent.
Yeah, there'd be some tired legs, and you've got to keep pushing over the top of these comms. I know it sounds like it's a logical decision, but you have to keep pushing. Otherwise, those gaps start to open, and they become incredibly hard to shut down, especially on this descent. And when they hit this false flat section, you really would have to put a dig in to close any gap that has formed. But as we can see here in the front group, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 GC riders that I can see. And you'd have to think that a few of these are holding the wildcard challenge, and they're really going to be pushing them and trying to keep that gap from closing from the riders behind.
Well, that is the question. Who is the wild card in the mix for each of these teams, and have they got it right, and are they in the front group at the moment? Well, the group looks like second group on the road is just gone into the back of group number 1. So the group's now starting to come together on the descent. It's not long. It's around 1,100 metres until they get to that wild card section, and those wild card riders are going to be wanting to be in the front of the group here. The Falcons rider right at the front. The Port is there. Jung is there. Boom is there. Perot has been having a great ride as well. So has Tommy from ART1. Van Wyn now sitting a little bit further back in the draft at the moment. Midfield. Still 5 or 6 seconds back to the group behind. So it doesn't look like all 3 groups will reconvene. Just the front 2 as they start to push towards the wild card segment. It's going to be interesting. They're going to let everybody know shortly ultimately who is the wild card, because those are the ones who are going to pick up the pace and put the power down.
And of course, with the wildcard segment, we know it's first across the line. They have to get a rider in those first 5 riders. Now, if they've got teammates there, even if the teammate isn't a wildcard holder, which they won't be, they will want that rider to try and take up one of those valuable positions, because you're not just racing against other wildcard holders. You're racing to get across the line in competition to all the other riders in this group. So if you've got 2 or 3 teammates who can cross first, second, third, fourth, or fifth in that segment, they're going to take up those valuable positions that some of the other riders are looking for.
Well, taking away points from other riders, part and parcel of the tactics that are allowed on the Super 6. And why wouldn't you if you've got more than one riders in the group? But you can see the GC rider from ZRG absolutely going for this now at 10 watts per kilo. The push is on the front. Here comes the kicker. You've got to transition across this flat section before you can take the pace and the power into this. Haynes is coming, so is Dump Truck, but take a look at this move from behind. It's Avanovsky and Steve from Evo. But who's moving fast? It's Coalition on the front way. What a move. Lloyd from ART was in there as well as the TNP rider. Coalition right at the front. That was a late kick, but what a move.
Did you see the power coming through as they were coming up this final part of the climb? That was just insane. That must have taken every ounce of effort they had to try and get over the top and get those valuable wildcard points, because really that's where the race is going to come down to.
Well, I tell you, the ZRG rider who led that out, we thought went early with a massive kick, but absolutely got swamped on the line by those late charges. Fabulous timing from those teams on that wildcard segment, and it's going to be really interesting to see when the results come through, where those points get allocated. Now, earlier on in the D race, in the Delta squad, we're on the second climb at the moment. We saw Coat go clear on climb number 1, but they had company. No company on climb number 2. The ART rider, the climber designated to that second ART squad, Coat at the moment. Look at this, 8 seconds clear of the chase behind. Zell from BMTR is in the mix, as well as Carr from the second ART squad. The Dinos rider is in there as well. The GTR rider is there too. There's a real mix of riders behind. Tracy from Evo 1 is in that group. Big group of riders, but one rider clear at the moment, and that was Coat from that second ART squad. Take a look at the riders going across the line now. Big group of riders. Thinking now maybe about that wild card rather than needing to go clear. One rider clear is an interesting move and may well take those top points, but the gap, it doesn't matter. You're not penalised if it's a 20-second gap or a 40-second gap, are you? Because it's a points race.
That's exactly it. And of course, now it will remain to be seen how Coat plays this. Will they sit up and allow some of their teammates, some of the other group to try and catch them, which I think might be happening? Or are they going to press on? Now, if they press on, that's still a significant effort to try and take that gap to the Clyde kicker if they've got the wild card. But I suspect that maybe they don't. Maybe their role was just the climbing, getting the climbing points, and now they're going to sit in, try and recover a little bit, and try and stay with this front grip until the finish. Of course, one of the big things to note here is that only the climbers, only those who are designated as climbers can take points on the climbs. So even though we've seen sprinters come across as well, if you're a sprinter, you will get no points on the climbs, and vice versa. Climbers get no points on the sprints.
Well, I was going to ask you, Nathan, in your team earlier on in the other league, was it the climber or the GC rider you allocated as the wild card?
The GC rider. I put all my eggs in one basket when we chose the different designations for the team. but we've got a strong GC rider, and we made the decision part of the way through the race to try and force that gap over the second climb, which is kind of what we saw with Coat there. But Coat allowed that gap to come back now. We can see 10, 12, 15 riders in this front group, whereas in our race, we had, I think, 3 or 4 riders break free, and they were the 3 or 4 riders that took the race to the finish as well. So not the case, I think, in this race, but certainly the group has been whittled down, and I dare say there's a few riders here that are absolutely looking to see this finish quickly.
Yeah, and I'm looking here thinking we've got Tompkins from ART, the sprinter, in the mix. We've got GC riders in the mix, such as the rider from the ART2 squad. And we've got a number of climbers in the mix as well. Zell from BMTR in there as well. And it's a strong-sized group. Now, it's an interesting mix for this wildcard as they start approaching it, because those sprinters, well, if they've got anything left in their legs, they've got a nice turn of speed. But it is a slight gradient with a kick.
There is a nice little kick, isn't there? And we saw that in the Bs as well, where they had a transition. They go up that short little rise. There's a nice little flat, but that last part of the Clyde kicker is really where the damage is done. And if you don't time it right, like we saw in Bs, you'll have riders coming over the top, and all that effort to try and get to the front at that part of the race.
Yeah. And it was all really, isn't it? I always think on the Clyde kicker, it's about the momentum you carry on the flat section and the momentum you can gain on the flat section into that final kicker that really does give you a benefit. And we did see those riders in the beta squad coming through and going past the rider who made the earlier move. Is it going to be the same here today? How are we going to see this one play out? Well, Javier is there. Coat has gone long. Oh, now Coat has gone. Javier is there. Carr is in the mix as well. The dirt rider's coming through. So is Taylor. And Tracy from Evo 1 is in the mix. Tompkin, the sprinter, paying real close attention as well. But Coat has gone early. Taylor now dialing this. Taylor from ART1 is moving. Andy from the Dinos is coming up as well. Nice move. Can Taylor go over the top of Coat? Yes, he can. What a move from Taylor over the top of Coat. The dirt rider and the Dinos rider, I think, are sweeping up points as well behind, if they're the wild cards.
If they're the wild card. And just like we were talking about before, we've got 2 art riders coming across. One of them would surely be a wild card holder. The other one is taking away a valuable spot out of those first 5 for the rest of the races to try and take. So that's a significantly strategic move to do that. It just prevents other riders from taking those points.
Well, I'll tell you something. This is the finale to the A race, and Mansfield at the moment, the climber from the Cryogen squad, dialing this on the front with 500 metres to go. Absolutely launched a sprint. Bart from What A is the rider on the back of the bunch, but Wilson now coming through. Stag is there. Theme is there. Walter is in the mix. Mock Santo is now starting to come as well at pace. Who is going to take this? Wilson is dialing this and moving it towards the finish. Walter and Theme are coming as well. They're going to pack it. Oh, the beast mode riders packing behind. 2 in the top 3. What a move.
That was phenomenal. 1,024 watts I saw flash up on the screen there. Imagine trying to pull that kind of power out at the end of this race, uphill in a sprint. That just blows me away. That's the effort level that some of these riders go to try and take this race out. That's phenomenal.
Well, and the beast mode climber leading out the GC rider, absolute class tactics. Really, really brilliant in that A race. Well, the B race is going to be the next category through to the final of Beta League. Well, it has been so close over the last few months, and it is coming down to this final race. It's coming down to the points they can pick up today, and it's the GC riders that are looking for those top points as we run in towards the finish. The pace is fast at the moment. They've just come down off of the climb. One small roller until that run for the line, and at the moment it's a good sized group in the Beta League.
Yeah, there's a few good riders here. And we're seeing, I'm just looking through, we've got a couple of sprinters still in this mix. And so you'd have to think that there's going to be some fireworks towards the end of this race, especially if they can hold on for this last 1.5 kilometers. But the climbers are going to press and try and force some gaps here just on this punchy little part of the course. Can we see some gaps open up and hopefully a few of these riders break free with enough time gap to take that through to the finish and get this? Because as we know, GC riders only get points against other GC riders.
Who wants to take 20 riders into the finish when you can take 10? And the climbers absolutely pushing on at 1.6k to go. And Perro is in the mix. Tommy from ART1 is yet again in the mix as well. The Falcons rider is there too. And the climbers really trying to wind this up and lead this out. They're not wanting to drop the GC riders from here, but they really are starting to motor the lead out from the climbers on this run-in. Really, really useful to still have them at this point in the race, because you have these two climbs before that real sprint. They're on the descent now, and you can see Port coming to the front, the OTR rider. Bay is in the mix, so is Hayes. Marb is there as well. Pedro, Tommy right towards the back of this group now as well. The sprinter Brumley is there too from the OTR squad. Port, the GC rider, is on their wheel. Well, they are winding
700
it up
meters
and
to go.
playing out the tactics right now in the B League. The numbers have not lit up yet. There's the banner that signifies the start of the sprint, that where the finish line will very shortly be on the right hand side. Tommy from ART1 now starts to launch, tries to lead this out. The coalition riders coming thick and fast from behind. Everybody is now absolutely motoring here. It's Tommy from ART1 on the front here, leading out Perro as well. Perro is leading out the riders from Coalition. Hagendorf is there as well. Van Wyn, Boom, Richards, Bay, all starting to come up and over the top. They're not at the banner yet. Oh, Jump Truck 5000 from TMP goes underneath the banner. GC rider picking it up at the moment. What a move. Boom is there as well. So is Perro the climber. Van Wyn is there too. What a move. GC riders at the front.
I'm going to need to lie down after this. What I'm noticing is that there is very little difference in terms of the power and the speed between A's and B's. There is literally, maybe a handful of watts in terms of the speed they're taking through to the finish here, as well as the numbers too, because we saw their a GC rider coming through. He's got the maximum amount of points on offer for GCs in this race. So he's done his job. We've got climbers there coming through as well. Art there, the sprinter. So certainly the dynamics, the makeup of this group, very similar to the A's.
Yeah. Whew, really interesting. And I'm loving the team tactics, Nathan, using the climbers on that punchy climb, which is just about to come up on this C category race. So the Gamma League now coming into that same punchy climb where the beta riders utilize those climbers to keep the pace high, protecting their GC riders. And then again, they too, those climbers led out on that final segment, which is slightly uphill before you go up and over the top, allowing the draft to the GC rider. So team tactics, team playing all the way to the finish line here at the Super 6.
Yeah, there's no let up there, is there? I can see there's a few GC riders in the mix here, but we've got one GC rider who with Coalition breaking free,
Maloney
just as we suspected. Coming through this little punch, and it'll be a quick downhill, a little bit of recovery. Now, can they maintain this gap? But maybe they will. They'll get caught up, I think.
Well, Bell is also a GC rider coming fast from behind. So Maloney and Bell for Coalition. On the front is Maloney, and it is the Velos rider behind. Two GC riders, Maloney and Bell, right at the front. We've got climbers behind, leading out other riders. In fact, the next GC rider, Star, is around 3 seconds back. Rachel from the Watt squad is in the mix as well. They too are the GC rider. And it's an interesting move here. So 3 seconds now for Maloney and Bell. Two GC riders in the mix. They've got 600 meters to go. It's a small gap, and it's starting to come down. Will going long pay off? We are very, very shortly about to find out whether Maloney and Bell's long-range attack is going to pay off, but I can tell you they're coming in hot from behind. Thomas and Gary, two riders from the climbing designation, leading in the pack and leading them in fast and hard, straight over the top of Bell and Maloney. The two GC riders now getting mixed out because Taylor from the Dinos, the GC rider, is on the wheel of the climbers here in the C category. Absolutely moving now. It is indeed the Dinos rider coming through. The climbers are leading this out towards the finish line. Oh, Taylor from the Dinos, the first GC rider over the line.
Wow, what a that was just fantastic to watch, and you could just feel the pain and the stress coming through on that climb. We saw them leading out quite early, just after that little kicker, and then being run over the top by some of the climbers coming through, maybe positioning themselves, pacing themselves a bit more accurately than some of the GCs, because all of the finishing points are still on offer for all of the riders where they finish in comparison to all the other riders in the race. And so every point counts. There's no letting up and, phoning it in to the end. You've got to keep going right until the banner. Can't let up. Got to keep pushing.
Well, and this is such a hard race with the climbs, the sprints, the wild card, wanting to stay or needing to stay in that front group to take that GC on the finish line as well. And I was about to say, we all know those days where you go out in the final 400 metres and you push because that's what's required of you and your team. And, 150 metres to the line, the pack comes over the top because your legs, you have just done too much work and not saved enough energy. Saving energy on this course is so, so hard. And it is really, what a finale to the Super Six.
It really is one of the most difficult routes we've had, especially this round. And Rich Vale has not let us down in terms of choosing something that is absolutely going to crush some of these riders in terms of, as you say, Emma, the energy, the watts they've got, how much they've saved in terms of coming into this finish, and how can they get across the line in the best possible condition they can to try and get those points, because as we know, it is so easy to get dropped and be kicked out the back when the heat turns up.
Yes, well, it's the Delta League. We are now running towards the finish line they are, around 1,250 metres out from that line at the moment. They're about to start the downhill that will lead them to the final run. And Taylor, the ART GC rider, is in the mix. The Dinos GC rider is in the mix as well. So is the GC rider from Dirt. A number of teams really working hard at this race to get those GC riders up there and doing a great job in the Delta League.
Yeah, look, I'm just so surprised to still see some sprinters in the mix there. But as we suspected, the climbers here are supporting their GC riders as best they can. Trying to group is just going to save power, it's going to save energy, it's going to conserve watts, and allow these teams to mobilize in a way that they can actually then attack this finish, because this is what it's about, getting the GC rider across the line as high up as possible. And of course, if you can get your GC rider across the line in first place, that's the ticket, that's the goal, that's what they want to try and do. And I think we're going to see that in a couple of instances here. But Tompkins from Art pushing the pace, they don't want anyone to get a free ride to the finish, do they?
No, that sprinter has been in the pack and instrumental on the climbs as well. But right now, at the moment, it's the Dinos rider, Fletcher, who is off the front. Javier Taylor in the mix as well. Now Taylor from ART1 is coming through here. The GC rider goes over the top of the Evo sprinter. The sprinter responds again, trying to take those points away. What a move here in the race. Now the banner is actually at the end of these barriers. So the push still comes. Javier is looking to me like one of the strong GC riders through, and Taylor from ART1 right up there. Fletcher from Dinos as well. What a move, and what teamwork. The sprinters and climbers really instrumental in terms of manoeuvring their GC riders into contention. Bring from Coalition, I also saw there coming through, another one of those GC riders in the Delta League.
Yeah. Seeing Dirt there, we had Dirt Evo, we had the FRR, we had FRR Art Racing. We also had, Beast Mode as well, because we know they're sitting in second place coming into this last race. And so everyone knows how important it is to get across this line and get those points.
Well, the replays, should I say, really showing the riders coming through and not out of it until you are at the line, because that is where your position counts here on the Super 6. We are dropping in with the Epsilon League right now. Sarah from ART on the front, Vale on the wheel, Hussey from ART. Two ART squads in the mix here at the moment, and those three riders around 6 seconds clear of the Dinos GC rider.
Yeah, Art have really dominated this race. And I think we have Mrs. Rich Vale there in second. So designated as a climber. So we've got Sarah there, Vale and Hussey as well, all from Art Racing, all really just absolutely stitching up the end of this race. There's no question that they're looking to take the maximum amount of points they can into this finish.
Yeah, Brown from Dino now 6 seconds back, but significantly clear of the chase group behind. So the Dino rider now starting to motor and wondering whether the gap can be closed, but I'm not sure it will be, because whilst there's 1,600 metres to go, 7 seconds, it's possible. I think Hussey, Vale and Sarah, the three riders on the front, well, they are going to be looking at each other and they are going to be battling right to the line to see which one of them can get over that line first. Will it be Hussey, the GC rider? Will it be Vale, the climber? Will it be Sarah from ART? We are going to be with them right through to the finish line. It doesn't matter what league you are riding, what league you are racing, what league you have got friends to support in. All 5 of the leagues across the Super 6 have been absolutely brilliant since the start back in October. And if you're watching this and thinking, oh, maybe I could do that, get a team together for 2026, because come September, October, well, it will all start up again. The next season announcements will come out around the end of April, so keep your eyes peeled. But you could be here taking part in the Super 6 next year. And of course, the playoffs and the finals are still to go, Nathan. That date is going to be etched in every racer's brain. March the 14th, it's the final, and at 7 p.m. GMT, we are going to be with you and bringing you all of the action. Well, Sarah from the ART, Hussey from ART2, and Vale in the mix, lining up, 650 metres to go.
Yeah, the Hussey comes from there first. Her teammates allowing her to those points there, and I'm sure that they're quite happy in position now. They're going to probably sit on the front for a little bit. There's only 500, probably 400 metres now to the finish. They have to be absolutely ecstatic with how they've raced this race, given that they've got 3 of their races in the front group.
Yeah, they have indeed, in the last 400 metres to go. And looking at the, I'm looking at the power at the moment, and Vale has started to wind this up. She comes over the top of Hussey, the GC rider. The climber leading out the teammate here. Sarah behind, also working strongly. The Dino rider, Brown, behind. The gap now at 10 seconds. They're going to come around the corner. They're going to go underneath the banner. The actual finish line of the race is at the end of the blue and orange banners at the side of the road, and this now is going to look like Hussey on the back, Vale, Sarah leading this out. The GC rider, interestingly, from ART2 on the back. Sarah's the rider pushing on from the ART squad, absolutely motoring as we drop in with Brown from the Dino squad, coming through for 4th place in the Epsilon Racing League today. Owens from the Dinos also now starting to wind up for the finish, which is just around the right-hand bend. They too coming through. It has been some great racing. But because it's a points race, Nathan, our viewers are going to need to head to the Flamme Rouge Racing website to find out what it means for the league and what it means for who picked up the most points today.
They'll be all is looking for the to see how they've gone. It's one thing to look at the race and go, okay, well, we were in the 2 or 3 or 4 across a different sprint segment, but then they need to, where was it the fastest time? And that's where the points are going to be out. And there are a lot of points. And of course, right, fastest through the segments, they're the ones that are going to get the, and those points tally up for an overall score.
Well, the results look as though they are nearly ready. In fact, they're ready for our earlier racing categories. Let's just take a look at the replay of that Epsilon League finish with the 3 riders coming through. All change in the final 100 metres.
Yeah, that's just textbook racing, having 2 and 3 from art racing across the line there. We've no doubt 2 climbers there and a GC, which is exactly what you want. All right. So, of course, we had Brown there. So 2 Dinos riders as well. And we know that Dinos were in the mix too. They certainly want to try and get it as they can.
Well, let's take a look at those results. They're coming up on your screen right now. The Alpha League, it was indeed Mark Santo, Christoph Thiem, Casey Wilson, who we saw come through. Simon Walter doing a sterling job coming through late. It was Mansfield who led that race out, rewarded with 5th place today. Aaron Dumptruck, we saw take the win in sterling style in that beta race. Broome, Perro, Van Wyn had been dominant all race, playing with those segments. Robson, Bay and Brumley also in the mix there. Marb too, doing a great race. In the Gamma League, Matt Price took the win from Joe Gellings. Gary was up there, Taylor, Thomas. In fact, we saw Paul Taylor. He was the GC rider we were talking about at the time. Now, these are the riders over the line. Not all of them GC riders, lots of them with different roles. It will play out. As we said, you need to head to Flamme Rouge Racing website to find out. In that D race, it was Fletcher from Taylor, from Javier from John, from Vale. Yes, the one and only Richard Vale in 5th. Coate, who had done some phenomenal climbing, really was a star climber in that Delta race today, doing the business as well.
That is some fantastic racing. As you say, Coate, Zell there, we were watching them in the racing. We also Price, Gellings in C over Gary there. I'm loving Aaron Dumptruck. I hope that's not his last name, but that's a fantastic one. Boom there as well. Perol, Van Wyn too. Some racing. And as we say, head over to flammerougeracing.com. You'll be able to see the results. You don't need to have an account. You can just have a look and see who's won, who got the and see who's going through to the finals.
Well, that Epsilon League coming up now, the results, and it was indeed Sarah who took that win from Vale and Hussey. Those 3 riders coming into the line and switching places in those last, 200 metres. It was absolutely brilliant. Brown, we saw come over the line. Owens and Boyce rounding out the top 6. Those are the results that we have for you at the moment. Well, that was fast, tactical racing. It was furious as well, and there were lots and lots of moments there, Nathan. What was there any unexpected or favourite moments for you during that race?
I think it's got to be we're going through that sprint. Some of the power numbers coming through at that late stage of the race were just unbelievable. That is incredible. And the fact that they still had that amount of power to drop 1,000 watts into the sprint was just phenomenal to watch. So that was my favorite part of the race. But to all riders that participated, it's a difficult course. It was a difficult race, and hats off to you for getting in there and pushing the pace all the way to the finish.
Yeah, it really was such a tough course, and Rich Vale putting it together And really picking a phenomenal finale, and also managing to get a top 5 as well. Well done to him. Well, as we mentioned during the race, all the results can be found on the Flamme Rouge Racing website. Tonight's race, and of course the overall league. And there'll be a lot of riders and racers out there from tonight, Nathan, waiting those results to come up to see whether their teams have qualified straight into those finals, or whether those teams not making those top 5 spots in the leagues have to race the playoffs. Now, those playoff opportunities are there for those riders to make the final on March the 14th. Now, we will be back then at 7 p.m. GMT to bring you all of the action from that grand finale. Well, I say we. I'm looking at Nathan. Will you be racing? Or will you be in the commentary box, Nathan?
Well, it all depends. We'll see how we go with our team lineup. AHDR Cruisers have gone through to the finals, so we'll be there on March the 14th. I'll be picking. There'll be no ego involved in the selection of the team. I'll be picking the 5 best riders that I'll have available to me to try and get us across the line in the best possible position we can. But fingers crossed, I'll be one of those riders. And maybe we can do some live action commentary as we go through the race. But it is going to be a tough race. There's no question about that. We're talking about that particular race route yesterday after we finished our race, and there is going to be a lot of pain.
Well, for that finale, we are heading to France, to the Knights of the Roundabout course. It is going to be a classic, and it will indeed go down in history because it is going to be the first grand finale of the Super 6. Join us on March the 14th to find out who wins the Super 6 and what decision Nathan made. Well, until then, we are going to leave you with tonight's highlights. Goodbye.